Hoi anō. He mea nui kia whai whakaro tātou ki ngā āhuatanga katoa ka pā ki te tangata iaia e ako ana I te reo. So we have to be honest and search for this kurahuna, this X factor of why someone like Tātira can go from zero to hero like that. Why can Scotty be freakish in how he can translate things? And I'm not going to give you perhaps the answer, but I just need you to know that if you don't do that within seconds, don't feel like a failure. These people are freakazoids. So, or accidental academics, if I put it in a nice way. Hui anō, from Scotty to te manaho.
Well, I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah, no. And 4,000 easy steps, so it's as easy as that. Māori made easy over several years.
We'll try that, right. So what that says is, yes, 4,000 easy steps, because it's actually not that easy, which is everybody's already alluded to, that it's, there's a whole lot of different challenges and barriers and difficulties that you'll face when you start your language journey, and we've all been told that that's been hammered into you over the last 24 hours. So, yep, grew up in Rotorua, no reo at all. Kind of wasn't the done thing when I was a kid growing up. We knew we were Māori. I mean, being from Rotorua, you pretty much know you're Māori because there's a lot of Māori people down there. And probably the only Māori thing that I really did was go into the kapahaka group at primary school, Rotorua Primary, and we went into the local kapahaka festival. Geez, you're going fast. Okay, right.
As I'm trying to say, keep it going. Kia kama.
So I went through schooling there. Main focuses were sports, rugby, volleyball, all of the sporting endeavours.
Come on, I've heard the stories.
Tururoa's school came down and challenged us for the Muesca Cup, and we sent them home empty-handed. So we were quite a good rugby team and quite a good volleyball team, but the time came when I had to think to myself, what was I going to do when I left school? So Waikato University was the option. And so I got to Waikato University and I had a look through the prospectus to work out what my papers were, because you've got to do a certain amount of core papers, and then you can have your sort of optional papers, your electives. And so I was going through the prospectus, and already my older brother and a few older cousins had arrived at Waikato University, and they said, bro, load all your papers from Monday to Thursday and you get a 3-day weekend. Okay, so I did that. So I was loading all my papers, and I had one more gap to fill in the timetable, first semester, first year at Waikato University, and I'm flicking through going, damn, there's nothing that fits in here. And one paper did, and it was called Introduction to Te Reo Māori. So I put that in, and I was like, choice, done. Which is not what you want to be doing, because you guys are putting a language plan together, so you've got to know why you are doing this. Yeah, that's one of the key things about language planning, is you need to know why you are doing it. What's the reason you are embarking on this journey and deciding to put a language plan together for your whānau?
And it's to get a 3-day weekend. That's
and it's not to get a 3-day weekend like me. But I did achieve that, but because I had taken a Māori paper, I was at Teachers College, they put me into a bilingual teaching stream. They were piloting Rūmaki at that stage. Kura kaupapa was just starting to come about. So they were piloting an immersion stream, which had a lot of native speakers in it. And then because I had taken this Māori language paper, they put me into the bilingual teaching stream. And we ended up doing all of our core activities at Teachers College with the immersion group. And so that's how I started to connect with a lot of native speakers through that. So I had this formal training going at university, but then I was starting to get exposed to a lot of colloquial style language through hanging out with native speakers in the first year. And in the second year, myself and a couple of these native speakers decided we'll all go flatting together. And when we got into the first week or two flatting with these native speakers, I all of a sudden realized they're just going to talk Māori the whole time. Yeah? Because that's what they prefer to speak. So I'm sitting there going, do I need to find another flat, or shall I just persevere with this and see what happens? Because they were mates, but they wouldn't speak any English. Yeah, they were always in Māori. One of them wasn't very patient with me, but the other one was. And so I was in the second year. I just scraped past the introduction to Māori language with a C- and a C, I think. Thanks to my older brother giving me a lot of the...
accidental academic.
A lot of the answers to things and essays and stuff. And so I went into the second year, but because by the end of that second year, I went to talk to Hirani Melbourne actually about doing a third year paper in Māori, and he started talking Māori to me, and it would have been about 6 months into this kind of situation that almost overnight, I could see the matrix. It all just went woof, like that. basically
And
overnight.
he started going,
One day, it's like,
he's still
people
got the
start talking
horrible
Māori,
leather
I'm
jacket,
going, I
I
can
tell
see
you.
all the words, and I can throw them back at you, and I can go like that, you know. And that basically happened overnight. One of the things that my mate said to me was that when you start to hear the reo when you're dreaming, that's a sign it's starting to awaken inside you. That was one of his things that he said to me. And I did have a dream. I remember going to wake him up in the middle of the night. Hey, wait, I had a dream of Māori, and he's going, get out of my room, man, you know. And
Engari, tētahi kōrero nui mō tēnā āhuatanga. Quite a lot of us perhaps have friends who are fluent speakers, or we have mates and we can speak enough that we could articulate ourselves in the reo, but we don't. So flipping that script and changing the dynamic in your relationship is a big thing. It's going to, oh yes, I am looking at you too, back there, Jenny May Clarkson. But the thing is that you're going to have to do it if you want to make that change. Create tēnā hononga, wainganui a kōrua, it is something you're going to have to consciously do, or at least for certain times, and that there will be benefit of that. Yeah, koina. Ka kōrero tia tēnei āhuatanga, we're going to talk about the dynamics of relationships, because it's actually a huge part. Yes, we are, my love. Yes. Because it's a huge part of these decisions that you're making. So,
yeah. The good thing about, at uni at this time too is I think Nicole was talking about tuknasei, and that's not being self-conscious and sort of accepting that you're going to make mistakes and not getting too heavy in the heart about that, not taking yourself too seriously, and you have to sort of have that kind of attitude when you're going into the reo. And because we were quite young and immature back then, we just sort of, we had a good laugh at each other when we were making mistakes, and we didn't take ourselves too seriously, and that helped us to learn the reo. Actually, we didn't get too taumaha about it. Yeah? And so having fun in that is a real key element of learning the reo. But also, if you can, like everybody's been saying, expose yourself to speakers of higher quality, that's gold, that kind of stuff. Because you listen to them and you start to imitate how they say things. You pick up words from them, you pick up sentence structures from them, and it really helps a lot. And that's what I had in that kind of environment, that immersion environment. And so that's, like one of my mates, and I also learned by doing things. So you got to work out what kind of learner you are before you go on the journey. And one of the things that really helped was the formal tuition was okay, but I reckon the language acquisition really accelerated when he started pulling me into the kitchen and going, "Ani, karoti, ne, how tēnei?" And I'd go, "What's that mean?" He goes, "What's this?" I said, "Oh, carrot." And he goes, "Maori." And I go, "Oh, karoti." He goes, "Ah, how tēnei?" Like that kind of stuff. And I'd go, "Maripi." He goes, "Ah, tapahia te karoti, ane." And he'd be doing that kind of stuff. And he goes, "Tapahia." Oh, kapai, tapahia.
And that's what we've been doing with your kids today over at the program. And if we just start talking to them, some of them, you said they can't speak Māori, and I say to them, "Hara mai ko te reo, me pene, whakanui a tēnei. And they go, "Oh, that must mean make it bigger." Okay. And kids don't get caught up in that, and they are in this situation, they go, "Oh, okay, I get it." So you can welcome people in. You actually have a bit of a role as an ambassador to do that with people. You can do that with people who aren't speakers but want to learn, and give them a little bit, that it's so obvious what it is. I find that on our show, Whānau Living. So when people are open to it and not hung up, they'll just pick it up. I'll say, whakakangia te umu ne? And they go, yeah, turn the oven on. And they are Pākehā who don't speak Māori at all, but they know in the context because they're trying to communicate. And those amazing mentors, people like Wharehuia Milroy, Pau Te Mara, Timoti Karetu, a lot of the time the words that they use, he iti te kupu nui te kōrero, ne? So it's not like always this big lofty sentence, but they, like Wharehuia said to Scotty the other day, he said, "Kai te pēhea ngā whakahotu o te manawa." Talking about our kids, how are those that make your heart beat?
Yes, luckily straight after that he went, "Hei te pēhea ngā whakahotu o te manawa, o tamariki." Because before that I was going, "What? What the hell was that?" But luckily he said, "O tamariki." I think he knew I would have gone.
But atahua, ne? It's so beautiful.
Oh,
and sometimes it's really simple. And I remember so many times talking to someone, I go, "Geez, I knew every word in that sentence, but I didn't know to put it together like that." So that's another benefit of exposing yourself to that level.
Yeah, Waikato University had some awesome lecturers back then. It was quite, real a special time, I suppose, at Waikato, because they had all of those teachers there. Hideni Melbourne was there. They were all there in the one tari. But then, progressing into kura reo panekiretanga. So this is kind of like the continuation of learning and knowing that once you start the learning, it never stops, and we all know that. You know, there's always something new to learn. There's always a new kiwaha, new word. And the thing that that we had to do, or where are we up to now?
Oh, so these are the impacts on Scotty in terms of the reo and as a person. So I'm going to go into some of the traits, and this is the slightly more contentious ones. Well, it ignited a passion. Kei te pai tēnā. It really did. I just can't even imagine Scotty now as a person if he didn't have the reo, or he would have been someone that would have been quite different.
I know where I would be if I didn't have the reo. I know
Not married
exactly
to me.
where I'd be.
Yeah, you know where you would have been.
I know where I would have been.
Where? Kei here.
Not here. Because I think at the time I picked up the reo, I was starting to slide off the rails a bit and getting into a bit of trouble back then. But I think the reo actually...
Luckily for diversion.
Actually, yeah, luckily there was a thing. But I think the reo actually, that's why I can't go into politics. There's too many skeletons in the closet. But it actually sort of pulled me back on track and it ignited a passion, which I didn't really have. I mean, I was doing rugby and all that, but it wasn't really the passion. I was just doing it because the boys were there and it was good camaraderie and we had a good club and yada, yada, yada. We were winning and stuff, but it wasn't, I don't think rugby was a passion or anything like that. Not like all of a sudden the reo was. And that's what ignited the passion, and that's what ignited all the drive and the motivation to keep on doing it. But and I remember there's a couple of key moments too. I remember when my grandfather passed away, and I was in wharekai down at Rukuwai, and one of my mentors, or one of fellow who was teaching me quite a bit, to me te Pō Hoepa, was there, and I said to him, he said, you need to go into a kapahaka group in Rotorua, and I said, why is that? And he said, because that'll help develop your reo. Kapahaka, and learning the waiata and learning all the more te and stuff, and being in that environment will help with your learning acquisition, your language learning. And I said, okay, well, I'll go to, I think I was going to go to, Rangiwewehi. I said, I'll go to Rangiwewehi. And my cousin Tiny Morrison was in there sweeping the wharekai, and she was listening. She says, no, you come to my group, Ngāpu Manawa. We've just started, come to my group. And Timmy said, yep, there you go to your cousin's group. So we ended up going to practice the following Sunday, and ended up being in that group for about 6 to 7 years, and moulded a lot of reo through that, because we had Iridangi Tiakia was around then, and he came in and did a few sessions with us, and all of that kind of stuff, being exposed to those people, all sort of helped fed into that language learning stuff. So it's a multifaceted approach, probably will work best for you. Sometimes just going to a classroom won't cut it. The thing with a classroom environment is that you're always going to be, I suppose your progression is always going to be affected by whoever the slowest learner is in the class. Hopefully that won't be you. But because what will happen is the tutor will tend to always base the pace of work on whoever the slowest person is, and you'll be guided through that way, and therefore your language learning may be slowed down because of that. So if you've got a whole lot of different scenarios of multifaceted language learning going on, that'll work the best.